Hey guys, how are we doing? So we're back on another Mother's Basement video. This one going to be interesting. I mean, have seen videos in the past, like Giguk's done a video on Isekai, like saying basically it's the anime that took over the genre. But this one's titled like What Caused Anime's Isekai Boom. Now, we've had stuff in the past like Digimon and Escaflowne. They were things I watched when I was younger that were Isekai anime. So it's not like it's a new thing. It's been around. But what caused the like explosion of it? You can't go a season now without an isekai. You got your Overlord, you got your that time I got reincarnated as Slime. We're still watching Rising of the Shield Hero, Konosuba. We're getting ReZero season 2. It's all over the place. It's a popular genre. But what caused the boom, man? Let's find out.
If you're watching anime nowadays, you can't really get away from
Amazing intro.
Since I started making videos, there have been only 4 seasons that didn't feature at least one show about a regular Japanese guy being whisked away to some kind of fantasy world.
Yep.
And it's been a full year and a half since the last break we had in fall of 2017. It's no mystery as to why this is. Just about every isekai anime has been among the 10 most viewed in its respective season, with a select few absolutely dominating the charts in both Japan and abroad. These shows are clearly filling a demand, and no matter how much I might joke about being sick of them, that demand is showing no signs of going away.
No, it's not.
A lot of people
want it.
have a lot of love for isekai anime,
ReZero.
myself included. So, what is it about this genre that's allowed it to so thoroughly capture the attention of anime viewers around the world?
What is it?
What are we coming to isekai for? Is it just the desire to experience a fun, effortless fantasy tale and take our minds off things for a moment? Or is there something more to it? To answer that question, it will help to first figure out why so many of these shows are being made and so many
God, No Game No Life as well.
are being written to base them off of in the first place. Because while the money you can make off an isekai anime plays a role in it, it goes beyond simple monetary incentives.
Yeah?
From a writer's perspective, the premise of a regular person being transported from Earth to some fantasy land presents a lot of advantages, and those advantages reflect many of the benefits isekai anime offers to viewers. When writing traditional fantasy, it can be very difficult to establish details about the unique world you've invented without simply dumping tedious, inorganic exposition.
Suppose there's that, yeah.
It can also be quite challenging to get that audience to connect with your fantasy protagonist, be they a farm-town peasant who aspires to greater things, a knight who's begun questioning the moral authority of the empire he serves, or a child soldier who becomes a professional ghostwriter in peacetime. No matter how interesting the motivations and backstory you dream up for your hero might be, they probably won't have much in the way of shared experience with a person living in the 21st century. And in absence of that inherent connection, you really need to work to give your audience some other reason to care. The continued success of the fantasy genre proves that these hurdles are just that. They're by no means insurmountable, but when you write an isekai story, you can sidestep them entirely.
Yeah, that's pretty kind of
It's just like a guy who plays a lot of video games and likes anime. It's a pretty safe bet that someone watching anime or reading light novels will already relate to them on at least some level.
Yeah.
And as a newcomer to your world, it only makes sense for your isekai hero to stop the story to ask, can you explain to me how your cool magic system works? Or
because then as we're sharing that experience with the main character,
someone who's lived there forever would pay no mind. Putting an amnesiac or a sheltered kid in your lead role, or at least in the protagonist's party, can achieve a similar effect, though without that added benefit of instant relatability. From the audience's perspective, these two factors mean that isekai stories tend to be easily accessible and consumable. There's little risk that you'll be left feeling totally lost at the outset of the story, at least not more so than the protagonist, and it's all but assured that whatever you don't know will be drip-fed to you at a
you're gonna get everything explained.
Use of RPG-like Dragon Quest knockoff settings adds an extra layer of comfy familiarity to the formula, which a writer can then lean into or brutally subvert at their discretion. Though I do think the former approach can fundamentally undermine many of isekai's greatest strengths. So far, all we've really talked about is how the isekai premise can be used to pave over common pitfalls in fantasy writing, but it also presents a lot of unique and compelling narrative opportunities. By its nature, the concept of being stuck in another world creates some interesting challenges for a protagonist to overcome. Leaving Earth
Jesus, like ReZero is amazing. Like, I keep dying, I keep restarting. How do I go further?
They might have. In contrast to the conventional hero's
So,
journey,
alright, if we
where
die
the
in here, we die in
protagonist
another world.
refuses the call to adventure until they are compelled or convinced to do otherwise, Isekai heroes rarely have that choice. Their ordinary world is stripped away from them by force, and they're dragged across the threshold often as soon as their story begins. This can leave them in an interesting position where they're already on a journey that they might not even be ready to start,
Yeah.
in a world they know nothing about, which in turn means that they have a longer way to
No,
go
the
in order
suffering.
to step up and
The
fill
suffering.
the void to fill. Looking at older works in the portal fantasy subgenre, as it was known before SAO turned it into
Escaflowne, there we go. Loved
we see
it.
plenty of great examples. Escaflowne's a personal favorite
Yeah.
of mine. When your heroes
Digimon.
are transported to the new world in a group, meanwhile, that shared feeling of
There we go.
isolation and
I'm all over this.
confusion can
I know
pull
my
them
stuff.
closer together
Boom.
and, in the process, test the boundaries and bonds of their friendship. That dynamic is what makes the first season of Digimon so damn good. It's not necessary to leave your protagonist on the back foot at the
Log
start
Horizon?
of an isekai story like that. Log Horizon's heroes arguably have a better grasp of the world they've found themselves in
Yeah.
than many of its inhabitants do. And instead of focusing on the challenge of adapting to a new world, what makes Log Horizon so engaging is seeing Shiroe and co. combine their knowledge with principles and concepts from the real world in order to make their new home into literally the best of both worlds. But that shows an exception.
No
The
game,
majority of
no
isekai that
life.
drop their heroes into cozy, generic RPG-like settings don't really take advantage of that familiarity except to pander to otaku tastes.
Yeah.
And in exchange for that, they sacrifice a powerful tool for character development. By isolating your protagonist from every other frame of reference they might have, you can force them to really confront and understand themselves, which can lead to compelling character growth. In ReZero, Subaru, isolated from everything that he thought was holding him back in Japan, finds that he's still a total failure.
Yeah.
Even his ability to cheat death can't save him from pushing away people he cares about and sowing the seeds of his own misery and isolation.
the suffering.
It's a sobering and profoundly depressing revelation for him that he doesn't handle super well at first, but once he realizes the depth of his own failings and understands that they are his responsibility alone, he's empowered to change himself for the better, and by the end of the anime, he's on a path to being the hero he wants to be. Being transported to the other world let him get a clearer look at himself. Through similar principles, the reverse isekai, or fish out of water story, in addition to being a great
Devil's
excuse to
Part-Timer.
smash the budget of your He-Man or Thor adaptation, provides an opportunity to critique and examine our world through fresh eyes.
That's,
But
yeah.
that type of isekai is a lot less common and less
Doesn't happen very
popular
often,
than
does
its
it? No.
opposite. And perhaps that's because
Devil's Part-Timer
otaku
works,
are a
though.
bit self-centered and more interested in stories that explore the thoughts of people like them, or perhaps it's a bit simpler than that. Perhaps they just want to be whisked away to another
The other world,
for
yeah.
a while instead of being stuck in ours.
Stop reminding
Which
us of the
brings
real
to the
things.
obvious answer to this video's question.
We don't want real.
Escapism. It's
Yeah.
often argued that these stories provide a much-needed distraction from the frustrations and struggles we experience day to day. Escapism is generally
It's
agreed
nice.
to be one of the driving forces behind the success of anime as a whole, as well as video games and geek media in general, so it only makes sense that a genre explicitly built around the premise of a geek hero literally escaping our reality for a better one would rise to the top of that market. Indeed, a lot of isekai writers seem to be working from the assumption that a pleasant distraction is all their audience is looking for, and to fill that perceived need, they pump out toothless, pandering stories like In Another World with My Smartphone and Master of Ragnarok.
That was
Being able
awful.
to keep
Master
your
Ragnarok was so bad.
seems to be a running theme with these shows. But while most of these pure otaku bait stories do pretty well for themselves, they don't generally explode in popularity unless they manage to put some really unique twist on the premise, like No Game No Life did. Meanwhile, so-called subversions of those indulgent tropes, like Konosuba and ReZero, have done very well. Though I'd argue that ReZero isn't so much a subversion as it is a return to the tone of older portal fantasies like Escaflowne and Now and Then Here and There, but I digress. It doesn't seem like it's just an urge to forget about
Escaflowne
work
is so
and
good.
stress that's
So good.
fueling the isekai boom. Still, isekai anime are well suited to filling that need where it does exist, and I'd be lying if I said that the idea of escaping to another world wasn't enticing. When I was a kid,
Hell yeah.
I always dreamed about the day that an owl would deliver my acceptance letter from Hogwarts.
Let
or
me
my
be a
partner
wizard.
Digimon would find its way to me through our terrible dial-up connection. And I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one. In fact, I know that I wasn't alone in the Digimon thing because there's a whole community of Digimon believers out there who are searching for Digimon
What?
in real life.
What?
That's a whole other can of worms.
Damn, that's so cool.
Long as you can
Nerdy as hell, but that's
separate
cool.
fiction from reality, I think that wanting the digital world or Hogwarts or Minecraft to be real is an understandable response for anyone who's not happy with the world around them. And I'd wager that it's a common sentiment among fans of those properties. The concept they share of an amazing hidden world that exists adjacent to our own allows them to push our suspension of disbelief just a bit farther than other kinds of fantasy do, by creating a plausible explanation for how fantastical events could be really happening around us without the world at large noticing. In other words, these stories don't just present you with a cool alternate reality, but rather with the possibility that your reality might actually be cooler than you think it is. And some works facilitate that fantasy better than others. Sword Art Online is far and away the most popular isekai out there, and a big part of its appeal is that its fantasy world could actually theoretically exist.
Because it's a video
Rather than
game.
being hidden in the present day by unexplained magic, Aincrad is locked away in a distant but plausible-ish future
Virtual
where we
reality.
figured out mind-machine interfaces and used them to create tangible VR simulations. It's more believable than Digimon or Log Horizon or Harry Potter, which are in turn a little bit more conceptually believable than, say, The Lord of the Rings. But there's more to SAO's popularity than that, and I believe it points toward an answer to the question of escapism as a driving factor in Isekai's success. Thematically, at least, SAO is not just about a nerd who goes to another world and is instantly happier there. Yes, Kirito is absurdly talented at literally everything.
Pretty OP!
The series of its dramatic weight,
Like,
and
goddamn.
he builds himself a sizable Nadaharam pretty quickly, but in concept, at least, he leads a life of struggle and hardship that he gets through with hard work and skill. We're told about, rather than shown, most of that effort, like his kendo training and his hobby of tinkering with computers, but on paper, every good thing in his life is something that he's earned. Every part of SAO that's widely considered to be the best, actually good, or less terrible, depending on who you ask, involves Kirito struggling in some way. The Aincrad death game, his psychological hang-ups in Gun Gale, the first half of Ordinal Scale, the early learning curve of Alicization, these parts are
I need to
generally
catch up with
seen by
Alicization,
fans
man.
and detractors alike as SAO's high points.
I need to watch Ordinal Scale
and while fans
still.
of the show aren't commonly as bothered by the bits where OP Kirito raffle stomps literally everything around him, few hold them up as the show's best moments. Most SAO fans are there to see the hero overcome, not just make a glopping noise as. And when you look at many of the other heavy hitters in the isekai genre, ReZero, Grimgar, Shield Hero, it becomes clear that fans of isekai really love watching their heroes fight through significant, sometimes absurdly significant misfortune, or inflicted on others in Overlord space, though even it often shows things from the underdog's perspective rather than the villain's in order to maintain audience interest. And there, I believe, lies the real core appeal of the isekai fantasy. The audience isn't just dreaming that all of their problems will cease to exist and everything will be Daijobu harem time forever once they cross the threshold, but rather that there could be a place out there where the effort they put in to better their lot in life and the choices that they make will actually matter and lead to some kind of tangible result. It's not hard to see the appeal of that to someone who's aimlessly grinding the corporate ladder or trapped under crushing debt or struggling with their schoolwork due to bullying and depression. Anyone who feels like they're stuck going nowhere in life through no obvious fault of their own. That sentiment is arguably the main target of Konosuba's genre parody. Kazuma and his friends are all horrendously incompetent
at
anything but
they are.
Every
They're not
rare
nice
attempt
people.
they make to do good inevitably backfires, while all of the actual good they do, as well as the many rewards they enjoy as a result, comes not from their own effort, but from Kazuma's canonically exceptional luck, which turns their lives into a cavalcade of absurd coincidences that always somehow work out in their favor. The show's Kirito stand-in, Mitsurugi Kyoya, is Yes, a bit of a creep with a big ego, but he also sincerely believes in justice and makes a concerted effort to be a hero, and he gets absolutely dunked on for it whenever he and our heroes cross paths. The talentless, lazy Kazuma, meanwhile, gets to live in a mansion surrounded by beautiful girls, including the one-sided love of Kyoya's life, who Kazuma doesn't even like.
Nope.
And he's made more progress toward defeating the Demon King than anyone else in the world,
Yep.
because he's lucky and life's just not fair. The heart of the current isekai boom, I believe, is a rejection of that unpleasant reality and a desire for real fairness. Perhaps that's why worlds that operate on RPG logic or other game rules are so prevalent and appealing, even in non-isekai fantasy, because what's fairer than having objective metrics that track your effort and ability and clearly defined rules that govern how that effort can best be applied? So, golly, that was a long way of saying that, yes, isekai's popularity is largely rooted in escapism. That is, the avoidance of unpleasant, boring, arduous, scary, or banal aspects of daily life. Thanks, Wikipedia. But it's not escapism as you might typically think of it. The scary, arduous, and unpleasant aspects of life are still there in full force. In fact, a lot of these shows amplify them, sometimes to absurd degrees. The difference is, in the isekai fantasy, going through all of those things means something. You get to enjoy the fruits of your labor. So long as you think critically about the escapist media in which you immerse yourself, it can provide space in which to figure out what's lacking in your life and what you can do to remedy that. The trouble with escapism only comes when you get lost in the fantasy and let it serve as a substitute for trying to make the world you do live in more like the one that you want to live in. There are also flaws in the underlying philosophy of the genre. The fantasy in a lot of these works isn't just that the magic world is more balanced, but that in such a world, a smart, nerdy guy like you, unshackled from social anxiety, expectations, and other disadvantages, would end up on top where you deserve to be. And that ignores the distinct possibility that the root cause of life's unfairness might be the very idea that anyone deserves to be on top in the first place. I mean, Kazuma certainly doesn't.
Does not.
Part of why I'm so in love with Mob Psycho 100 is its emphatic rejection of that idea that some people are inherently more special or deserving than others. It also offers
I need to watch season 2 of Mob Psycho, man. I can't believe, like, I was like waiting until it ended, and now I've not watched it yet.
The bulk of its narrative on self-improvement,
and then when I do, I'll check out Mother's Basement What's in an OP.
But man, if you get me talking about Mob Psycho again, we will be here for hours.
Season 1 was
anime
amazing.
has a bit of a reputation for being repetitive, self-indulgent pablum peddled to sad, lazy losers who just can't make it in the real world. And there's certainly some truth to that sentiment. But as I see it, that's just an ugly subset of the broader demographic that's propelled these shows into anime's stratosphere. People who feel like the world hasn't given them a fair shake, and who yearn not for an easy life, but rather for one in which they can really prove themselves and be who they want to be. And I don't think that's an inherently unhealthy thing to want, or even something that has to be a fantasy. Not if we can work to build it together. Now, if you've stuck with me through this whole video, I'd be willing to bet you've got at least a passing interest in this subgenre, and if you do, there's a good chance that you're enjoying this season's comedy hit, Isekai Quartet, which brings the casts of ReZero, Konosuba, Overlord, and Tanya the Evil together in a high school setting where shenanigans inevitably ensue. Well, today's sponsor, Bookwalker, Kadokawa's official light novel and manga ebook store, has the English language light novels and manga for all of those series, and from now until
I thought he was going to say that like Isekai Quartet has got its own manga.
History, they're giving away free sampler chapters,
what?
Which you can read
it does. What?
So now's a great time to see some of your favorite isekai anime.
Or was it just implying these? Oh man.
After they left off.
I just think it's funny how I said that, and that it said the Isekai Quartet mangas. Then I was just like, so it probably just means these, yeah.
You one of 2 bonus Isekai Quartet
That's funny.
wallpapers. Plus, you can buy those books for a bargain if you use the promo code BASEMENT to get a 600 yen discount when you check out. At the very least, you should be checking out those free samples. If you're a ReZero fan in particular, the EX spin-off novel that delves into the lives of Krush and Felis is
that's
a great
cool.
read. You can find all that and more at the link in the doobly-doo. But before you doobly-doo, let me know in the comments below what your favorite isekai anime are and why. And while you're at it, consider clicking the subscribe button or ringing the notification bell if you want to see new videos about anime and sometimes movies and games every week. Until next time, I'm Jeff Thu, professional shitbag, signing out from my mother's basement.
Cool. Escapism. Trying to find things that, yeah. Sometimes it's nice to just get away from, like, stuff, isn't it? That's why we play video games. It's why we watch anime. It's why we do all this. Just get away from it all for a little bit. And take our mind off things. Yeah. So yeah, that's Mother's Basement's take on Isekai's Boom. But what do you guys think of that? What do you guys think of this? Click like, subscribe if you haven't already. Leave comments down below. Let me know what I should watch and discuss in future videos. And I'll see you guys, just all you guys, next time.